Hello everyone. Today we are starting one of the very important lessons in HTML, which is inputs and forms. What is input actually? Input is an available box for the user to insert some data. Quick example. Let me just show you a quick example here. Like Amazon form or Facebook login form. So you notice here in this Amazon form we have several boxes. Some of them text boxes, some of them like your credit card, this is a number, and here you enter in the name you enter some text, and payment is a submit button, and it's another cancel button, and the registration form we have a username and a password. We're going to talk about this in detail. How we're going to use, most of the time we do this, we use that input element in HTML, but how we're going to do that using the HTML. Let's start by coding an input simple, very basic box. So let me type input, and let me just, you notice here it's a single element, single tag element. So remember we talked about that. We have single tags and we have double tag. The single tag that doesn't have any closings. Like the body here, we have the body open and close, the HTML open and close. This is the input, this is single single element. Let me just write the attribute type here. You notice here we have so many different types for an element, the input element. You have buttons and checkbox and colors and date and time and email and file and hidden and number and passwords and radio and reset and insertion, submit and telephone and text and time and URL. Well, let's start with the most important or the one we use all the time, the text. So in the attribute type, I'm specifying here text. Let me save this and reload so you guys can see. You notice here a box, available box on the top here of the screen, on the top of the browser left corner, which it doesn't mean anything. You just can input some text, you can put some numbers, you can put some special characters, so you can put anything, because we did it's going to be dealt with as text. So but if I change that text, so if I change the type here, let's say I'm going to go here and change that text, rather than saying a text, I'm going to put number. So I'm going to put number here. So then I will save and I will reload. You can only input numbers here, and you notice here if I'm going to type some text. You notice I'm typing text here now, but it's not working. It only accepts numbers. And guess what? We have on the right side, you have the increase and the decrease, or the increment and the decrement. You just, so if I put here, for example, number 2, then I'm gonna go increment 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you can decrement as well. You can even go to the negative side. So that's a number. And there is so many different types other than text and number. But let me put back the text, the one I started with. Okay, I will come and save, so, and then I will reload that, so back to the text. So you notice here we have a box, one single box on the top, but by itself it doesn't mean anything. Like we need to specify something, like we need to put a label. So let's put a label, because you need to tell the user what kind of input box is this, like what kind of data you expect. So let's specify here, let's put a label here. The way you put a label, just on the top here, I'm going to put here a label. And in the label here, I'm going to put here after the label. Actually, if you notice here, the difference between a label and an input element, a label is a double tag. It's not single tag, because it has open tag, and here is the open tag, and here is the label, the closing tag. Between let's remove the 4 now for the time being. I'm going to mention it. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But here, between the open and close tag, you put a label here. So let's say I'm going to put here maybe user name. Then I will save and reload this. So you notice here username. So you are telling here the user that you need to put a username here. You put just like John Smith, so something like that. So this is the username and it's of type text. We also need to enter another. Let's enter another box first before I see. Okay, I'm gonna enter another input. So I'm gonna put another input. Okay, and I will leave it as a text as well, and also I'm gonna put a label here. Okay, and this label I'm going to call it maybe password. Oops, why I did that? So Command, okay, Command S. So let me save that and then reload this. So we have here a username and a password. And if you notice here, the username and a password, it's in the same line. Why it's in the same line? We remember we talked about that a long time ago with the very early lessons about inline elements versus block elements. So the input elements and labels, those are inline elements. So what is inline? Inline elements will take space as much as it needs only. Like if you have a content that's like 12 inch, it's going to take 12 inch. But the block element is going to take the whole width of the browser, regardless of what kind of browser you're using. Using Firefox, you're using Safari, you're using Chrome. So it takes the whole width of the. But since we have here in our in the input, we have only inline block, so it's going. You can fix that by just adding a BR. You just, if you say BR here, so then we'll command and save. Let me reload that. You notice here, that's a way to save that, to fix the problem. But again, there is much better way to fix that rather than using the BR. And I don't recommend using BR actually in that kind. When you working with forms. Oh, wait a minute. Let's put the whole thing in a form. So I'm gonna put here form. So I'm gonna put the whole thing in a form here. Let me just remove. And form, you notice here it's a double tag element. So I'm gonna put here the whole thing that I did now. It's in a form. So I'm going to remove this, all the two inputs with their labels inside the form. And I will save, and then I will do the formatting so it looks much better. Okay. So now inside the body we have a form, and inside the form we have those two labels with the two input. Now I remove the BR, so if I reload, it's going to go next to each other. So the best way to do that, rather than putting the BR to fix that, you just put them in a div or in a container like div. So remember we talked about div last time when we talked about containers. So div is a block element. So a block element, that means it's going to take the whole thing. It's going to take the whole width of the browser. So all what I need to do, I'm going to just remove the label and the input over here. Okay, the label and the inputs over here. Okay, and then I will do the same thing here. I'll put another div here, and I will move those two line of codes over here. Okay. So now let me save and format. So now when I reload, you will notice I fixed that problem of having the same thing, the two input boxes in the same line. Okay, so now we know what an input box is. So let's add here another thing like a submit button, because if we have a form like that, username and a password, Oh, wait a minute. Let's put the types here. So I can leave the input type as a text. I'm sorry, the first one, the username, as a text, but the second one I would change the text to password. What's the okay? Let me see. Password. So I'm gonna start here inputting a username. Let's say username. I'm gonna say Tom Ashby, like that. And then for the password, you notice what's going to happen when I start typing the password. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, I did not save and reload. Okay. Oops. Wait a minute. No. I forgot to reload. Okay. That's why it's okay. Command S. Then now I reload, and let me put some username. Then when I move to password and start entering a password, you notice it's entering what? Dot or asterisk. It's a hidden field, which make so much sense, because it's not good, it's not recommended that you type your password and somebody's sitting next to you and he knows and he looks at your password, he will be able to figure it out. So when you start typing password, you just put the type, change the attribute type, rather than putting leaving it as text, is password. Now after you do that, you need to find a way to log in, a button to click login or submit or something like that. So we're going to add a button now. I'm going to add a button, and that button I'm going to have it as a submit button. So let's put the input here. Again, I'm going to say input, and this time rather than text, I'm going to type submit. The type is submit. And let me remove this other stuff, the name and ID, and save and reload. You notice here we have a submit. By the way, you can change that submit to login. You can put anything you want. Just like let's say I'm going to put here, rather than submit, I'm going to put the value. You're adding the value. That's the value button. I'm sorry, the value attribute. And over here, I'm going to say login. So when you save and reload, rather than saying submit, it's going to say login. And you can move it to the side, to the left. We're going to talk about this when we start talking about CSS. But anyway, that looks like a form. It makes sense. I have a username and a password and login. One thing also I want you to know over here is that having the form, and I want to add something that links the username to this box and something that uses the password to this box, because you notice here when you click on username, it's not showing you any link, and it's not showing you that password, or it should when you click on username, it should change the focus to the box immediately. And the same as with password. How we're going to do that? The for. So remember the for that we had, that I removed it at the beginning here, the for attribute. But I want to do something before the for. I want to add an ID to those input buttons. So there is an attribute ID, and this ID, you can call it anything. So let's say my user name. Okay, and I'll do the same thing here with the password. With the password here, I'm going to add an ID attribute, and I'm call it my password. Okay, so now I have an ID to identify that input box. So with the for in the label here, you just need to use the same exact ID, which is my password here. I'm going to put it here for the for here. I'm going to put that over here. I will save and I will reload. I want you to look here and notice what's going to happen when I click on the password label, and you see the difference when I click on the password label versus when I click on the username label. So when I click on the username label, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. See, I'm clicking now. nothing happened. But when I click on the password, you notice it moved the focus to the box immediately. So this is because you said this label for, or it's connected to, or it's linked to the input box that has an ID, my password. So let's do the same thing here with the username. So with the username here, I'm going to take the ID, and I'm going to use the the for attribute for the label, and I'm going to put my username, and I will save, and I will reload. So this time when I click on username, it moves the focus to the box that is related to the username, and when I click on password, it moves the focus to the box that is the input box that is related to the password. So now it's kind of look like a form, and it kind of start making sense, a little bit making sense. But another thing here I want you to know, you can describe by using the placeholder. You can describe what kind of input box it is by using the placeholder attribute. Let's do that. So I'm going to use the placeholder attribute over here in that input box. Okay, so I'm coming here, the first one, the username, and I'm going to use the placeholder attribute. And anything you type in the placeholder, let's say, I can say type here your user name, something like that. So you save and we reload that. You notice here, type here your username. So anything you write here, you don't have to write. I can only say username. There is no need for the whole thing. I'm just trying to show you that anything you type, so it's going to show over here. But the good thing is, as soon as you start typing username, so that placeholder is going to disappear. That placeholder is going to disappear. So that's the benefits of using placeholder. So let's put another placeholder here on the other input box for the password, and to describe or to tell user what the user should enter. Say, let's say placeholder here also, and I'm going to say here enter password, something like that. I will save, and then I will reload, enter password. And guess what? You can describe to the user, you can explain. Sometimes we know the password should be maybe 8 character or 6 characters with special character. So let's say 8 character, and then you can describe. You can put 1. You can put asterisk. You can put this. You can put uppercase A and lowercase a, things like that. So when you save here and reload, so you are describing to the user what kind. So this basically placeholder, you can put some explanation or text or a code, anything you want. And again, as I told you, as soon as you start entering thing here and entering thing here, it will disappear. In some other places or some other situations that you don't want this to disappear, you want to have a default value for inform, like you are selling a product and you're filling, the only product you have maybe shoes, and you are getting another input box for the sizes, so you can put shoes as a default value. You don't want the user to change, so you can change it, but it's gonna stay. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's say here you don't want that, you can put rather than using that username here, I'm gonna put value. So I'm going to put a value attribute here, and in the value I'm going to put the name. Let's say, since this is the username, John. Oops. Yeah. No. Okay. John Smith, and let me reload here. You notice here John Smith. It's the default value of a username. So you can change it. I can just delete here. See, I'm deleting. You can put another name, but it stays every time you reload. It stays as a default. The difference between a placeholder and a value, the placeholder, as soon as you start entering things, completely disappearing the whole thing. But for the value, it's the default. If you don't enter anything, you still can submit. So when you click on login, it's gonna send the information you have here. Okay, so now let's do one thing also. Let me take back this. Let me just remove the value and the username. I'm sorry, here the value and the placeholder. Just keep it like that, and save and reload. And then I'm gonna enter here John Smith, and I'm gonna enter some password, and then I'll click login. You notice as soon as you click on login, the information is gone completely. It's gone. Every time you input something and then you put the password, as soon as you click on the login, because it's the submit, it's going to submit the information you have to the server or to the database file you have. We'll talk about that later when we start doing the code or the JavaScript portion. But as soon as you click login, it will send the information. Another thing I want you to know with the form is sometimes you want so let's forget about the username, or let's forget about the password. I'm going to put the username and then click login. See what happened? It's send the information already. So it sent the information without putting the password. You don't want this to happen. So you can add an attribute, and we'll talk about more about that when we start talking about the validation. You can add an attribute to the input box called required. That means it's required, it's a must. You are forcing the user to enter something in that field. So if I go over here and put a password only, so I'm going to put a password here. I'm putting a password. I want to log in. You notice here I did the required field is what? Is the username. So as soon as I click login, it's not going to send. It should, let me reload first, okay? I didn't reload. I didn't save, and wait a minute. I need to save that first and then reload. With the required field here or input box. So for the username, I'm going to ignore the username. I'm going to put a password without a username. Then when I start to log in, notice what's happening. Please fill out this form, this field, the top one. So now when I put this, now I click login, it will send the information. So let's add the same thing here with the password. Let's say the password is required, and most of the time is the username and the password is required. That's make more sense, like it's required. So you cannot just put a username and forget about the password, because if you oh, I didn't save. Let me save here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, you cannot just put a username and then if you try to log in without without having a password, you have to put a password. So I put a password and then you click login. Now it sends the information. So required is almost, sometimes it's a must. You can just control it if it's a login information or so. And sometimes you don't have to put it. One other thing I want you to know about this form, that you can use the field set. The field set element to contain the whole form in a box or in a rectangle. Let's do that. So over here, after the word form, over here, I'm going to put a field set. Okay, the field set, and then between the open and close, it's a double tag. Actually, I'm going to move the whole form. The whole form. Wait a minute. It's no, I'm sorry. The whole code, not the whole form. So from here to here, all the code, I have it here. I'm going to move it inside the field set. Here inside the field set, and then I'm going to do the format. I'm going to do the save. Okay. So everything here inside the field set. So you notice here everything all the code I have is inside the field set. So when I save, when I reload now, you will see this whole thing, it's in the block. And it's a field set, by the way, is a block element. That's why it takes the whole the width of the browser. And also you can add even a legend here that makes it looks much better. So let's say, since this is look like a login form, so I can put a legend attribute here after the field set, right after the field set over here, right after the field set over here. I'm gonna put the legend. Okay. And between the open and close here, I'm gonna move everything again here between the open and close for the legend. Oh, no, just put the legend here. I'm gonna say login, like that. Then I will save. As soon as I reload here, you see here login on the top as a legend. There is so many other things we can talk about it with the input, when we change the type and when we change the background, when you start doing CSS. But that's all what I want you to know for this lesson. And the next lesson we'll start talking about the method. So thank you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next lesson.